Welcome to TRF Tuesday.
New York City.
This is Trauma Research Foundation's weekly mini workshop series from Bright Voices in Therapeutic Embodiment. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. It's the way to tell YouTube that this content is valuable, and then they'll show it to more people. So thank you all for joining us for session 3 of Sexual Grief. Bring the mind and body into sync with hostage negotiation techniques. Today's session is entitled Breaking the Bond. Create a new bond of trust. It's now my great pleasure to introduce to you our facilitator. Edy Nathan is a thought leader and certified sex therapist specializing in trauma and grief. She works with businesses, universities, and long-term care homes to help people understand how these areas filter through their lives and affect everything from creativity to productivity. Working together, she offers creative ways to deal with grief, trauma, and sexuality. Edy, thanks so much for being here. Take it over.
Thanks. It's so good to be here, Mary. Hi, everyone. Thank you for just allowing me to share this time with you. So sexual grief is kind of a term that's new. It's an experience that I'd like to share with you. And today we're in this third section, this third part of learning about hostage negotiation techniques as it relates to the mind and the body being out of sync. But the first thing we're going to do is I want to define sexual grief for you. So sexual grief is a natural response to an unnatural sexually traumatic event. I'm going to say it again, and you might, if you have paper and pencil or pen, or you want to write this on a computer, please, write this down, because it may help you as we are moving through this time to really sit with it, land with it. And I'm going to define it a little bit more before we go into 3 very specific exercises today about unbonding and bonding and building trust in an arena where we need to build trust, but often don't have any. So sexual grief is a natural response to an unnatural sexually traumatic event. Sexual grief forms a kinship, a bond, if you will, with sexually traumatic events that span over one's life. That's an internal developmental experience. So a bad first sexual experience, or the sexual grief that comes with aging, or the sexual grief that comes with disabilities, or the sexual grief that comes from being an unwanted child, or the sexual grief that comes because of abuse. And you can fill that in on your own. You know what I mean. The idea here is not for you to get charged, but for you to start to think about things that may affect you, your work, the way you interact with other people. So let's talk first about a bond. What is a bond? A bond is like a trust, and trust is, it's truth, it's strength, it's a firm belief that others will do what they say they're going to do, or even maybe the parts of yourself will do what they say they're going to do. But sometimes we get stuck. And what we bond to, like the sexual grief, like our wounds that affects our minds, our bodies, and our psyches, we can't release them. And it's not about forgetting, but it is learning how to remember more peacefully. What holds you hostage is this sexual grief, and I'm going to define hostage, and then we're going to do the first exercise. A hostage is someone who is taken prisoner by someone or something, and they're stuck and they cannot be released. And it is often the things in our minds and our bodies and our brains that keep us in that hostage place. It is our experiences of sexual grief that can keep us in our place. So I'm going to ask you to play with me a little bit, play with these games, if you will, these exercises to deal with this third strategy of bonding and unbonding and finding truth and trust. So the first thing I'm going to ask you to do is to think about 3 things that I'm going to prompt you with after this exercise, just so you know how it's going to be laid out. Okay. So first, you're going to actively listen to this, to what you're going to do. And then you're going to think about, well, what is the experience? What's going on in my head? What's going on in your body? What's going on in your heart? And what's going on emotionally for you while you're doing this? And then the response by you. And we'll get into that after we're done. Okay. So whichever hand you want, I want you to put one hand on top of the other. I chose to put my right hand on top of my left, but it doesn't really matter. Now, I want you to imagine that it is adhering to this part, that right this area is adhering. And now I just want you to create a pressure. I want you to even close your eyes, and I want you to feel the pressure of that. And wherever you move it, it won't release. You try to shake it off and it stays. And you try to move it to the right and to the left, and it won't leave you. You pick it up above your head and it's still happening. And you can feel even a pressure in your arms. And you can feel a pressure perhaps in different parts of your body. And I want you to just feel that. I want you to really feel that pressure. I want you to use all of your might. And it's almost like speaking to you, and it's saying, I'm not going to let go. 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 And that's even maybe how it sounds. That's right. That's right. And now at the count of 3, I'm going to have you say, release, let go, unbond. Release, let go, unbond. And release, let go, and unbond. And now listen. What's going on in your head? I know my hands are shaking. What's going on in your chest? What are the emotions that are being stirred? Is your breath the same or is it different? Is it static? Is it alive? What's going on? That's right. And now the third piece to this, as you listen and you ask yourself what the experience is, do you respond with, I hear you, and what are you hearing? Do you respond with, I don't understand, and leave it at that? Or do you respond with, please clarify? Now, I don't know about you, but my hands and my arms are still feeling the remnants of that exercise. And that's what a bond is. That's how it can tug at you and hold you. And if you've got a computer or pieces of paper and some pen or pencil, I'd like you to just write some things down. I prefer paper and pen just because of how the brain loves to access emotions when we write versus when we're typing. That's right. That's exactly right. And now I want you to shake it off. I want you to be aware of how it feels to not be bonded and kind of bound in that way. And this, in some ways, is a simple exercise, but it also involves the entire body, the mind, the psyche, and also emotions. And in that moment, it was kind of a hostage situation. Wherever you go, there you are. And the idea is to break free. It's not about forgetting. It's about learning how to remember peacefully. Take another cleansing breath and let it go. Finish whatever you're writing. Finish that up. And now we're going to go to another exercise. And this exercise is about creating a new bond. So this is more of a guided imagery. So I'd like you to, again, just feel yourself in your body, perhaps put your feet on the ground, allow yourself to really be in touch with your breathing. Allow your breathing to go deep into your solar plexus. Even imagine going down into your feet and then taking that breath back up and filling your lungs and then letting it go and release. That's right. That's exactly right. Because one of the things that happens with sexual grief is that it stops us from perhaps even taking a really good breath. It stops us from being ourselves in social situations. It can stop us even from going on a great date or getting a good job or feeling confident. And so now I want you to think about creating a new bond. So I'd like you to think about now, eyes closed or soft focus. Soft focus is just focusing very slowly on the ground, not looking at one dot, and you're just doing it, kind of just relaxing, kind of a half closed eye. And now what I would like you to do is imagine something that you've been bonded to in your life. Maybe it's something old, like an old memory. And I want you to really take care of yourself during this time. Please don't bring up something that you know might be a trigger for you. It could be, whatever that is for you. I want you to be safe, and safety is really important during these exercises. So I trust that you will care for yourself as we think about something old. Could be a memory, a piece of clothing, a piece of jewelry. It could also just be an aroma. But whatever these are, they stay really close to you. And you kind of are tired of having them come up, pop in, if you will. And I want you to just think about it. Think about that memory. Think about that piece of clothing. How does it feel? Think about that, I don't know, jewelry, that piece of jewelry. And you are bonded to it, but there's a part of you that wishes you weren't. Now I'd like you to imagine that you take that memory, you take that piece of clothing in your mind's eye, and you wrap it up. And you wrap it and you wrap it and you wrap it and you wrap it until you can't see it anymore. And it doesn't matter what you use to wrap it, but you've wrapped this thing that you're bound to, that you have a kinship with, that is a reminder of some time in your past. And now I want you to imagine that you're throwing it up and away from you. Throw it up and really, really put emotion into it. Throw it up and away. That's right. Good. That's right. And then feel your hand drop. Just for the moment. Feel every part of you expanding. That's right. expanding. Because for this moment in time, that memory object is away and it's not sticking. And now I'd like you to imagine that there's something new. Maybe it's a cognition. I am free. I am able to do this. I love myself. I don't need to hold on to this anymore. And I want you to imagine that that is coming toward you. And it's maybe like a helium balloon, or maybe it's coming like a droplet. But it's coming closer and closer and closer. And if it's a helium balloon, let it open. And if it's a basket, let it open. And let whatever this new cognition or thought or feeling is to wash over you. Feel it. Breathe into it. Notice it. Welcome it. That's right. This is about developing a rapport and a trust that you can actually change something up. Now, mind you, whatever you've let go of and released, you can always get it back. But the question is, do you need to? What makes you want to? Because what we know about our wounds is that sometimes they're easier to hold on to because it's what we know than it is to give them some space and to give ourselves some space so that we can actually know they're there, but we don't have to wear them. We don't have to have a memory bond with them, but we can acknowledge them and say, okay, you're there, and you're part of me. You're not all of me. And that's what this beautiful exercise of letting go and bringing in is all about. It is the releasing, and it is the rebonding, and it is the third stage, the third section, the third strategy for hostage negotiation techniques with sexual grief. What do you want to hold on to? What do you need to let go of just for right now? That's exactly right. Now, again, if you've got that paper, I'd like you to just jot down what's going on, what happened for me, what am I feeling, what am I noticing? There's no right or wrong. How does my body feel? What's going on in my heart, in my belly, in my head? Is my mouth dry? Is my jaw loose or tight, or my neck? Doing a body scan. And then again, when you're ready, taking in a breath and saying to yourself as you take in that breath, I am. And as you release that breath, I want you to say, fine. That's right. And then you're taking in that breath again, and you're saying, I am. And then as you breathe out, in trust. That's right. And then one more, I am. And then as you breathe out, no longer being held hostage as much. That's exactly right. So there's one more exercise that we're going to do. And this is an exercise where you are going to imagine that there's someone you want to say something to. And maybe they're part of some languaging that you have that stops you from trusting. I want you to imagine them. And I want you to imagine them, they're like on a movie screen. So you're very well protected. And you can see them. And I want you to imagine that there's actually a thread, a string between them and you. And I want you to hold that string really tautly, in a taut way. I want you to really hold it. And I'm holding it like where you're feeling how you're holding that string, like in your hands, in your arms, you're holding it. And suddenly a scissors appears. And you take the scissors and you hear whatever is being said that keeps a bond that you want to break. And you cut the string. And I want you to just feel that, the cutting of the string. I want you to be aware of any emotions that might be coming up. Because the cutting of the string is a really important part of beginning to have the bond with you. To imagine that that person fades and then you are left with you. And you are beginning to develop that rapport, that beautiful rapport of trusting yourself, knowing that you haven't crumbled or disappeared. You're right here with me in this room, with you in your space. And you have done this. You have created and learned about the third part of bringing your mind and your body back into sync by cutting, by breaking off, and by sending away. Thank you so much.
I loved that cutting exercise.
Yeah.
Feel a little bit of that, the rebound from that.
The rebound. Every time I cut it, I feel it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even though I'm teaching it, I'm right there with everybody. Like, I'm not just talking about it. I want you all to know that I'm really in it. And if you were to look back at this recording, you would see my eyes are closed as well sometimes.
Yeah, there's always work to do.
Always. Mm-hmm.
Always a little bit more, something else. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So we do want to make the space available for people. If they have any questions or comments, you can drop them in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can in the next 5 minutes or so. I do want to ask Edy, I saw that you have a book coming out. What can people learn from the book that, maybe they're not experiencing in these shorter sessions?
So the book will probably come out the end of 2023. It is yet to be named. So I have a working title, which is Sexual Grief, a Human Condition, because I feel it is for all people. And what they'll discover are deeper dives into what sexual grief is and who gets, kind of affected by it. So they'll be in discovery around religious trauma syndrome and the girls who experience a bad first period story, or the loss of desire through aging. So there's all of that, but everything is done with stories and metaphors and conversations. So it's not just it's not like a how-to book as much as a guide, and join me on this journey.
And I've put a link in the chat for anyone that wants to follow Edy's book journey, the sexual grief book journey.
Someone's asking,
thank you.
How much does intuition play into when you're doing work with people? What you're intuiting about them, maybe?
Tracy, you're asking that question, and yeah, and I read your question last week, and and intuition, how does one account for intuition? How does one, understand the lines between intuition, personal experience, and learning that comes from books and articles and teachers that might hurt but have made you the best you could possibly be? And so I think, to answer your question with my true heart, it's a combination of everything. However, I would also say that you are really on point, because being a survivor myself, it is some intuitive, and I don't even use survivor anymore. So I'm going to correct myself if you don't mind. I use survivalist because I feel we overuse survivors. So myself as a survivalist, that I think that the intuition plays a big part, huge, because what I smell, what I feel, even on a Zoom, is it hits my heart or my taste buds. In person, it's my sense of smell.
Someone's asking, would you suggest doing these exercises we did today by ourselves, or should we always be led through them?
Trust yourself. If you think that this is something you can do, then you need to then definitely do them on your own. If you feel that maybe there's some exercise here that feels like it could be triggering or might bring up something for you, or you might want to go deeper with, you might want to share that experience either with a friend or a therapist or a group. So to be honest with you, the cutting of the string, I lived in my house for like 25 years, and I tried to sell it, and for a couple, like it was on the market for like a month, which was like a long period of time. And so I wrapped a string around the house, and I took the string and I cut the string, and the next day the house sold. So that was like a really meaningful, actually kind of shamanic exercise that I bring into my work and my life.
And I'll just say, because Mary added the link, you can watch all the previous sessions. It's somewhere in between the two, not totally by yourself, but you don't have someone there, to respond to you. So there's always that option as well.
Yeah.
Edy, do you think processing some of this work is better done with your partner? If you were going to do it with someone who wasn't a professional, do you think processing with your partner is a good way to go, or better to process separately from your romantic or sexual partner?
I think it depends on your partner and your relationship with your partner. And, all partners are different. And just because we might love our partner, it doesn't mean that they have the capacity to bear witness to whatever happens. So it's really a personal choice. And also it depends on what they're experiencing with you and what you're sharing. Like, does the sexual grief really affect one's your ability to be intimate with your partner? And if that's the case, then hopefully there's some co-working that can be done. And starting with something like maybe cutting a string and creating a new story. So,
what would you suggest to people if they want to follow up from these sessions with more information with you? Where would they go?
Absolutely. Just my website is actually a really great place to go. And if you go to my website, edynathan.com, and you go to events, and then it just says like more about the book, and it will, or maybe it's about Edy, because it's still a work in progress. But just write to me, contact me, and I will be more than happy to give you information. I'm also going to be doing a cruise, an empowerment cruise for women in April, and I'm going to be, working on some intensives, so for all people. So, you'll find that information as it comes up on the website.
That's really generous. Thank you for offering that.
Yeah.
Edy, thank you so much. Thanks for another thoughtful session. We're really appreciating this intro to sexual grief and starting to understand it a little bit. So we really appreciate you, and we're so glad that you're presenting this series for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And maybe this week we can all cut another string on our own, doing our own work. We really look forward to the next couple sessions. We have 2 more in this series, and we really want to thank our audience for joining us. Please share this series with everyone you know. You can find past sessions in the TRF Tuesday library on our website, and you're going to receive a feedback form this week. We'd love to hear your impressions and thoughts about the session. We'll share those with Edy, and we may even share your words anonymously with our community, maybe through social media and other places. So we appreciate your feedback. Behind the scenes, thanks so much to Pat Murray, to Star Muhammad, Connor McCann, to all TRF staff. I'm Mary Frangie, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Until then, be well, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.